in your book, you mention the challenge with buying a distressed business is that it can take a little time for a seller to admit that it is distressed. They will insist it's a wonderful business. Why is it important that the seller admits that his or her business is distressed if the business assessment the buyer would undertake during the due diligence stage would show this through numbers and facts that the business is distressed? Would the seller's admission strengthen the buyer's negotiating position, for example?
Well, the quick answer is yes. But let me just look at this in a bit more detail for you. The biggest challenge that a business buyer has is agreeing a valuation of the business with the seller. Because the seller starts up here, the buyer starts down here, and you've got to meet somewhere along the spectrum. However, many business owners are delusional about value because they equate a monetary value, or they put a monetary value on the fact that they've run the business for 20 years. Yeah. The fact that they've sunk their life savings into it 20 years ago and have propped it up ever since. They say that there's a value on the fact that it's been a labor of love. All of these things are irrelevant when it comes to valuing a company, because all we're concerned about is the here and now, not what they did 20 years ago, or even what they did a couple of years ago, or even last year to some extent.
Or even what they think they might do next month.
Oh, well, that's the other problem, where they talk about potential. I've never met a business owner who hasn't told me what wonderful potential their business has.
Right.
However, the challenge with potential is that it's all very well telling me that it's got potential, but I'm the one who's got to mine that potential. And quite frankly, if you follow the logic, every business owner telling me what amazing potential their business has, that means that every business should be getting better and better and better and bigger and bigger and bigger and more successful. And of course, we know that isn't the case. Mm-hmm. So there is this challenge around perception. Now, I'm quite active on LinkedIn. And if anyone's listening to this who's not connected with me on LinkedIn, send me a connection request, because it will mean that you'll see my videos on LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, I often get into disagreements with people who tell me how a business should be valued on its potential. And my answer is, the people who focus on the potential and talk about the potential of their business are usually the people who have a business that isn't doing very well. And they don't like me saying that. Yeah. But it's the truth. So the challenge is, we have to value the business on the here and now, not what happened in the past and all the effort that's gone into it and the fact that this business has sort of been your baby for 20 years. But we also can't value it on the future, because at that point it won't be your business. Mm-hmm. I can't pay you for something the business is not, but might be. That doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. Now, what people say to me on LinkedIn is, Jonathan, you must be buying the business for a reason. You must see potential. Yes, I do see potential, but I can't pay you for the potential that I see that my team are going to maximize. Yeah. I can only pay you for what it is right now. And if what it is right now is of modest value, that is the value. It can't be valued on the future. There is one caveat. Okay. And there's one solution to this problem that bridges the gap. We can bridge the gap using an earn-out structure. Now, an earn-out structure is where part of the payment, and sometimes a considerable part of the payment, is linked to the future performance of the business. So if the business does win all those contracts that are just around the corner, then you get paid more. But if they don't win all those contracts, if all this potential was just hot air, then you don't get paid for the hot air. Sure. So really the seller puts their money where their mouth is and says, actually, I do truly believe that that big NHS contract for 100 million will happen. Great. If it does happen, and that's been the result of all you going to these meetings for the last 2 years and all those proposals and tenders, in which case we can pay you whatever sum is agreed based upon that happening. However, if it doesn't happen, you don't get paid. Now, if you truly believe it's going to happen, you're quite happy to agree to that. If you now get all edgy and say, well, I don't like that idea, I want to be paid now for it, I'm suspicious now.
Right. So going back to the question which raised that, but was looking kind of specifically at distressed businesses. The question, let me read it. Why is it important that the seller of a business comes to appreciate that their business is distressed sooner rather than later? Why you say the challenge with buying a distressed business is that it can take time for the seller to admit it's distressed. Well, yeah. Why is it important that they do rather than let that come out at the due diligence stage?
Right, because you will have reached heads of terms before you start your due diligence. So therefore, you have agreed a value and to some degree a structure for the deal before you do the DD anyway. So we want to, we're looking at one at the moment, and my due diligence guy went over there this week, and he's come back and said he's never seen such a badly run business. Now, to be fair, that wasn't evident up to that point. Right. And he says that it will need considerable capex because it's a bit run down. So yeah, by his estimation, I think it was 150,000 of capital expenditure to bring it up to scratch, which you only find these things out with a site visit and with him sort of looking in more detail at the numbers. Now, I know that those owners are, the thing is, when you tell someone that a business is distressed, it can be quite insulting. They take it very personally. So my way of approaching this is to tell them that the business is wonderful, but there are clearly some financial issues. And usually most SME business owners don't really understand their own finances. Right. So we can blame the finances, but the customers are very happy, the staff are very happy, the suppliers are very happy. Everyone's very, very happy. You've done a great job. It's all very happy, but we've got some problems with the numbers. So I deflect away from anything that might insult them, because that's not going to be helpful to the relationship. Yeah. And focus on the numbers. We've got a few little problems here, and I can see why it's happened. You know, the pricing or the VAT was paid late, and it created a knock-on effect. So I'm not sure if I'm completely answering your question.
Well, you are, because fundamentally what you're saying is that you wouldn't leave it till the due diligence stage anyway, because by that stage you will have already agreed in principle.
Absolutely.
The terms on which you will be buying the
100%.